Yeah.
If you have any plans this Saturday other than watching college football, you better cancel them. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Make sure you like this video, go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert, and check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can receive more news and analysis by signing up for our weekly newsletter, which just came out today, and also sign up for our expert picks. Those expert picks will be coming out tomorrow. So don't miss out on any of this extra content. Check out all the links in the description below. Well, guys, we are in the back half of the college football season. We're already past the halfway point, and it's about to get real. Week 7 provides 4 huge ranked versus ranked matchups, all containing top 10 teams and all containing major college football playoff implications. We have Oklahoma traveling to the Cotton Bowl to face off against Texas in Dallas for the Red River Showdown. We have Alabama traveling to Texas A&M, a place where the Aggies usually put up a pretty decent fight against the Crimson Tide. We have Michigan State traveling to Wisconsin, a game that should be fairly low scoring and a game of very dominant defenses. We have Penn State traveling to Iowa to face off against the Hawkeyes at Kinnick Stadium at night. And then we have Florida traveling to Death Valley to take on Joe Burrow and LSU with one of the more prolific offenses in the entire nation. Huge, huge games coming your way. Maybe one of the best weeks, if not the best week of college football yet. And we're going to break it all down for you right now. Tell you who we have winning these games and why. And then take a look at our Heisman watch to wrap things up. So I find it only appropriate that we start with number 6 Oklahoma taking on number 11 Texas at the Cotton Bowl in the Red River Showdown. Now, it might be interesting for some to know that Texas actually leads this series against their bitter rivals. Texas leads the series 62-47-5, and they won the regular season meeting last year 48-45. Dicker the kicker winning the game for the Longhorns. But Oklahoma got the revenge in the game that mattered the most, defeating the Longhorns in the second meeting last season in the Big 12 title game, a game that, of course, ultimately sent Oklahoma to the college football playoff. Now, we mentioned that Texas won last year, and that was behind a major day from Sam Ehlinger, who's going to be even better and has been better this season than he was last year. Ehlinger had 314 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air last year for the Longhorns, and the defense for Texas forced 3 turnovers against Kyler Murray and that very potent Oklahoma offense. They're going to need another similar performance in this game, much like they had last year, if they want to upset the Sooners, because they're facing an Oklahoma defense that's fairly favorable to many opposing offenses. They allow 200 passing yards per game and just allow Carter Stanley at Kansas to throw for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Sooners' 45-20 win over the Jayhawks. And I can tell you that if Carter Stanley can put up some of those numbers against the Sooners, Sam Ehlinger can put up even better numbers in this game. So expect another big day offensively from Texas, but can their defense shut down Jalen Hurts, who of course is on our Heisman watch, 21 total touchdowns this year, over 1,500 yards through the air, 500 rushing yards. Texas has to make sure to contain Jalen Hurts. I think they can limit him through the air. I think they can do a decent job shutting him down with the passing game. But Jalen Hurts has that ability to scramble, has that ability to have an explosive play and make something out of nothing. Texas did a great job doing that against Kyler Murray last year, at least until the fourth quarter, where he led that 21-point comeback that ultimately fell just short to the hands of the Longhorns. Texas allows 325 passing yards per game and allows 26.6 points per game. Oklahoma averages 53.4 points per game. Something's got to give here. Expect it to be a Red River shootout. That's going to be expected. Rivalry games, you throw records out the window. You throw history out the window. Last year, we picked Texas to win in the regular season, and I changed it. I changed it to Oklahoma, and it backfired on me. I'm not making that mistake again. I picked Texas in the preseason, and we're sticking with the Longhorns to get a huge upset over the Sooners at the Cotton Bowl, and that will not only create chaos in the top 10, but will create chaos in the Big 12 as we could potentially have another showdown between these two in December in the Big 12 championship game. Second game we have up on the board, number 1, Alabama, traveling to number 24, Texas A&M, both coming off a bye week, And as we mentioned at the beginning, A&M usually gives Alabama a decent fight at College Station. They usually do a pretty good job of that. Last time here, back in 2017, they only lost 27-19. Found themselves down, I believe it was like 24-3, ended up mounting a pretty large comeback to make Alabama sweat a little bit, but the Crimson Tide ultimately pulled away. Texas A&M upset Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium all the way back in 2012. Since then, they've lost 6 straight to the Crimson Tide. And the FPI has only given A&M a 16.3% chance to win this game. I'm going to go on record and say that percentage is too high. I think that percentage is too high for the Aggies. I don't believe Texas A&M should be ranked right now, and I have nothing against the Aggies. But they fell to Clemson, and yes, they only lost by 14, late garbage time touchdown, and held Clemson to just 24 points. Then they lost to Auburn, who just got taken care of by Florida at the Swamp. Let's put it like that. Lost to Auburn at home, a game that A&M, looking back, probably could have and should have won, just because maybe Auburn, I'm not saying they're not as good, but just really showed a bunch of signs of weaknesses against Florida. And then they narrowly escaped Arkansas, arguably one of the worst, if not the worst team in the SEC. Narrowly beat them 31-27 in Dallas. So I don't think A&M is all that. I don't think they should be ranked in this game. Kellen Mond in the preseason said that he is the best quarterback in the SEC. Well, he's certainly not playing like it. Yeah, he's thrown for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, already has 4 interceptions, and has really had an inability to run. Kellen Mond was a more mobile quarterback. Thought of him that he would be able to scramble, make plays on the ground. He's been unable to do that in recent games. He's going up against the best quarterback in the SEC in Alabama. Tua Tagovailoa has 1,700 yards to the air already, 23 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, leading an offense that averages 51.8 points per game. And yes, the defense has been worse than usual. The defense has struggled this year, something that's very uncharacteristic of a Nick Saban-led team. So yeah, maybe A&M, if they can get some points going and Kellen Mond finally wakes up, they can put up some points and make this game close. But coming off a bye week, I think Nick Saban perfects this defense. They have a monster outing against the Aggies of A&M, and Alabama escapes with a win against Texas A&M by at least 14 points. We got a big one here between Michigan State and number 8 Wisconsin. They have not met since 2016. That was when Wisconsin upset then number 8 Michigan State 30-6. On the road, I should add, as well. 24-point win over the 8th team in the country on the road. Can Michigan State come back and repay the favor 3 years later? No. No, they cannot. But you can expect this game to be close. And you can expect this game, in my opinion, to be fairly low scoring. Michigan State is coming off a 34-10 loss at Ohio State. But really, I don't know if anybody is going to be able to beat the Buckeyes this season. They were annihilated by J.K. Dobbins on the ground. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry and had 172 yards on the ground. But they're still only allowing just 100 rushing yards per game. They are going up against a running back in Jonathan Taylor, as we all know, who's one of the best in the country. He's on our Heisman watch. That has 100 rushing yards in a game in 27 of his 32 games that he's played in at Wisconsin. Think about that for a second. Think about that statistic. Only 5 games where he's been held to less than 100 yards. Expect another big day from Jonathan Taylor in this one, but ultimately Wisconsin's defense that's only allowing 5.8 points per game is going to get the job done against a Michigan State offense that is improving, yes, but just isn't quite there yet to go up against this elite of a defense. Jonathan Taylor might get bottled up, but Jack Cohn gets the job done. They're still averaging 43.4 points per game. They're having a balanced offense, and that balanced offense is ultimately going to be enough to wear Michigan State down to the point where the Badgers, if it is close, will escape with a victory over the Spartans. A sneaky good game. It's not a ranked versus ranked matchup, but expect the Spartans and Mark D'Antonio, a guy you should never doubt, expect that game to be relatively close and maybe a potential upset watch on Saturday afternoon. Our 4th game we have up on the board is an upset. At least we're choosing it to be. Number 10, Penn State, who just cracked the top 10, traveling to number 17, Iowa. We all remember what happened the last time these two teams met at Kinnick Stadium. Penn State won at the buzzer. No time left with a touchdown to win 21-19. Silence Kinnick Stadium. An absolutely heartbreaking loss for the Hawkeyes. Now, Iowa has lost 5 straight games to Penn State, including a 30-24 loss at Penn State last year. And it should be noted that last season, those 24 points that Iowa scored, none of them were scored offensively. They all came from special teams or defensive touchdowns. They didn't score an offensive touchdown in that game against Penn State. And that's not very encouraging considering now Iowa's coming off by far their worst offensive performance this year, mustering only 3 points against Michigan in that 10-3 loss at the Big House to the Wolverines. They mustered 3 points, had 4 turnovers, 3 of those coming at the hands of Nate Stanley. Not good. Not good at all. But Nate Stanley is still one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I don't think people were giving Michigan enough credit. He still leads a very balanced offense. And they can rely on their defense that allows just 8.8 points per game. Now, Penn State, on the other hand, only allows 7.4 points per game. So kind of like Michigan State, Wisconsin, this game could be relatively low scoring. Penn State has been one of the more tougher teams to beat in the entire nation. Put it like that. They've got a phenomenal offense. They've got a phenomenal defense. They're looking like college football playoff contenders and absolutely deserve to be in the top 10. They haven't been very tested, though. They beat Pittsburgh and they beat Maryland in blowout fashion. For Maryland, not necessarily Pittsburgh. Iowa's been a little more tested. Iowa State and now Michigan. Again, they, yes, lost, but still a test. I can't go against Iowa at home at night. Kinnick Stadium is where dreams go to die. We know that. We know that. Kinnick Stadium at night makes it even worse. I just can't pick against Iowa when they're at home, that they still have a solid team and are anxious to come back with a bounce-back performance, especially offensively, after that disappointing performance against Michigan. I've got the Hawkeyes upsetting the Nittany Lions, much like we picked back in the preseason. I'm sticking with that. At home against Kinnick Stadium, I like it. I like the Hawkeyes to defeat the Nittany Lions. They're going to have a major day back offensively. Penn State's offense is great, but they haven't faced, or defense is great, but they haven't faced an offense with the potential that Iowa has. And then finally, we have number 7 Florida traveling to number 5 LSU. This is our game of the week. Look for more analysis on this game coming out tomorrow. We'll definitely go into deeper detail. The FPI has given Florida a 24% chance to win this game, and it should be noted that the past 5 meetings between the Gators and the Tigers have been decided by just one possession. One possession, including last year's meeting when Florida upset the Tigers and showed that Florida was legit. Florida was back under Dan Mullen, beating the Tigers in the swamp 27-19. The last time they visited Death Valley, Florida won 16-10, of course, on the famous goal line stand that sent Florida to the SEC championship game, let them clinch the SEC East title. They're coming off a huge win against Auburn, 3 interceptions, 4 total turnovers against the Tigers. That they forced. Kyle Trask is playing extremely well. Over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns, and threw for over 200 yards and a few touchdowns themselves against Auburn. The defense is looking legit. These two teams, LSU and Florida, let's just say it right now, match up perfectly with each other, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Florida, 9.5 points allowed per game, and only allow 275 yards total per game. But can they do that? Can they keep up the defensive success against the best offense in college football statistically in LSU, who's averaging 54.6 points per game, 571 yards per game, and are led by Joe Burrow at quarterback, who's already thrown for over 1,800 yards and 22 touchdowns. The defense has been a little bit more lackluster than I expected. I expected a better secondary out of LSU. They're allowing 19.8 points per game. That's not horrible. Many teams would kill to have a stat line like that. But through the air especially, LSU has not done as well defensively than I thought they were going to. Expect them to do that this week against Florida. Florida will struggle to have any success offensively. This game will be close. LSU's potent offense going up against Florida's elite defense, while Florida's going to try to generate a little bit of offense in what will be one of the toughest environments to play in, first off in all of college football, and certainly on Saturday night, a night game at Death Valley. LSU wins this game against Florida in what will be another one-possession game. More analysis coming on this game later, but by far the game of the week, by far the game with the biggest college football playoff implications, and I'm already pumped for Saturday night. We're going to take a look at our Heisman watch real quick. Jalen Hurts, of course, these guys in no order whatsoever, but Jalen Hurts, I think, would be our leader right now, sitting there tied for the best QBR in the nation, 96.6. We mentioned him earlier, over 1,500 yards through the air, 499 rushing yards on the ground, adding 7 touchdowns on the ground as well. They have a game against Texas this weekend, and for a lot of these Heisman contenders, this is the time, this is the week, especially these upcoming weeks, where big performances boost your Heisman stock. Most teams are wrapping up cupcake teams. You're now getting into the bulk of conference play for the majority of these teams. From now to the end, it's conference, conference, conference. If you play well against some of the elite, if Joe Burrow plays well against Florida, one of the better defenses in the nation, Jonathan Taylor against Michigan State, Jalen Hurts against Texas, when you play well on bigger stages and against more elite teams, that's how your Heisman stock rises. And that's what Jalen Hurts needs to do here against Texas, a team that just allowed 367 passing yards to Austin Kendall and West Virginia. We've got Texas winning, but like Kyler Murray last year, expect a big game out of Jalen Hurts against this Texas defense. Tua Tagovailoa had a bye week last week, as we mentioned. Coming back, though, Jalen Hurts, we said, was tied for the best QBR in the nation. Who's he tied with? Tua Tagovailoa. 96.6 QBR, over 1,700 yards through the air, 23 touchdowns, no interceptions. Texas A&M's defense has not looked that impressive against the pass. Big days to Trevor Lawrence, of course, still an elite quarterback, but a big day to Arkansas and Nick Starkel and Ben Hicks as well, the last time the Aggies were out on the field. I think Tua tears apart this Aggies defense, and Alabama gets a huge win on the road. Jonathan Taylor, he's averaging 7.2 yards per carry, 745 yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns, but he's helping his Heisman stock even better with his role in the receiving game. Already has 12 receptions for 114 yards and 4 more touchdowns receiving. That's scary good, guys. That's scary good. It's scary to think that, you used to think you could just shut him down by stuffing the run. Now he's going out there as a wide receiver. Now he's getting more involved in the pass game than he has in recent years, and he's looking even more and more dangerous. Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, deserves the Heisman Trophy if he keeps up the success, but unfortunately for him, he will not win the Heisman Trophy. 186 yards and 9.8 yards per carry against Kent State this past weekend, 5 total touchdowns, 16 total touchdowns on the year. Watch out for Taylor against an elite defense in Michigan State. And then finally, Joe Burrow, 344 yards and 5 touchdowns against Utah State. He became the first LSU quarterback to throw for 300 yards or more in 4 straight games. He's setting records left and right for LSU in this passing game. Probably the best passing game we've seen maybe ever from LSU, at least in the past decade. Joe Burrow transforming this LSU offense. Ed Orgeron transforming this LSU offense, doing great, great things. Can they keep up that success, though, against Florida and that elite defense that just annihilated Bo Nix and Auburn last Saturday? So there's your top 4 players going into Week 7. We'll have more on them next week, see how they perform in these big, big games that have major implications not just for them, but for their team and their playoff or conference title hopes. And now you've got your 5 biggest games that, like I said, cancel all your plans because you're not going to want to miss any of them. A huge, huge week of college football ahead of you. We've got Game of the Week analysis coming out later this week, so don't miss out on any of those, and don't miss out on any of these major games with major implications across the board. So guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert, and check out the official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the expert picks, and as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.